Hey everyone, time for another gaming vlog to help start off this month. With me about what I'm currently playing, about developments that have come up this week. Some are good, some not so much. Let's get this started. First off is some intriguing stuff that might be connected to the Switch 2 or whatever they're going to be calling the Switch successor. Is that not only have people been making accessories for the system with micro SD cards. These kind are going to be having like a faster transfer speed of 800 millibytes per second. 800 megabytes per second. Sorry, I misspoke there. So, I mean, that may not sound like a lot at first, but when you factor in the install sizes of has a lot of games, or even just like updates the system and your games, it actually sounds like quite a bit. I mean, and is another piece of the puzzle, well, as information about the system itself remains scarce and practically being kept under lock and key as well. And on a less positive note, I was not going to comment on this until the a litigation officially concluded, but as it turns out, the a verdict just came down earlier today. That the Switch emulator Yuzu, who is functionally going to be shutting down, and I'm forced to pay a $2.4 million restitution. Even as someone who typically doesn't emulate the most recent games, aims to typically focus on stuff that came out ages ago, many of which can functionally be considered abandonware. Or, admittedly, for people who were involved with it, it does come as a blow. I'll admit that. Same with the 3DS Citra emulator as well. Hell, I mean, I was expecting it would go over a bit longer, or like what happened ages ago. When console manufacturers took other early emulators to court, but I just thought I would strike for that while the iron's particularly hot. But I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be all like that. Just I gotta take the bad with the good. So here's some of the good. The newest season of Splatoon 3 has gone live as of this past Leap Day, feature a host of new returning gear and weapons, especially if you're people like me who finally completed the side order expansion. I'm also working on the completion of that. The toughest part is, of course, going to be the the he finding using AIDS palette. I mean, whether or not you choose to disengage like the augments you have active, or just try to solo the whole challenge of just like 6 slots in the palette, it's definitely going to be a quite intensive but also quite fun to do, which is exactly what I would have expected out of a Souls like a kind of expansion of sorts. I've also been really loving Killer Instinct on Super Nintendo Online. Out of all the rare titles, I mean, our course favorite characters, as I mentioned, are Saberwolf and Volgor, or but I also experiment with the other people on the roster as well. I would not object to KI Gold coming to N64 Online, and even like the reboot games. That's also on the list of titles I would not object to coming to Switch or PlayStation, which should make a nice little transition to my next subject. So, even with the PS5 having crossed like the 50 million mark in worldwide sales, it's still not quite enough to stave off yet more studio closures and job cuts. It's mean the London studio has become the latest has, studio to fold, and in a very poorly aged image. It was the people that Jim Ryan attended at a going away party for were unaware that they were going to be losing their jobs. Smooth. Media Molecule also narrowly avoided that for now, and of the dozen at minimum live service games I had in mind, by my count at least 9 have been shelved, which, given how many other woes that sector has faced, Ace would not surprise me. I don't know about full on Crash, but could see a contraction of that subgenre apart from bigger names happening, since Crash Team Rumble has become a casualty of the admittedly interesting news that Toys for Bob is spinning off from Activision Blizzard named Microsoft to go independent, though they're still willing to work for them. I'm still very interested in a Spyro 4 in the vein of Crash 4. Basically, a game that disregards less well-received installments as acts as a direct sequel to the original trilogy in style and gameplay. And also, in the sense that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has lost even more players on Steam ahead of the next bit of content dropping. And I have severe doubts about how all the content coming out means. I don't imagine the numbers are much better on Xbox or PlayStation. And let me put it this way. Arkham Knight, a game which came out almost 10 years ago, has a higher player count as I record this. Whether or not it's people rediscovering the game, which I liked at the time, and people started coming around to it even more, especially after this one's device reception. I can definitely understand why. My guess is that it does not turn around, and it'll probably be considered like an Elseworld going forward, and may even cause WB Games to have second thoughts on that business model for games that aren't Mortal Kombat or Injustice, personally. Tomorrow is also when this month's PlayStation Plus Essential titles go live, which is like the base tier here, previously like the main tier. Here, the games are as follows. I will say overall the lineup is an improvement over the selection last month, at least for me. They are EA F1 23, a Formula 1 racing game. Hello Neighbor 2, I did not play the first one, I just in general do not play a whole lot of mascot horror, but at least be willing to try this once. Destiny 2 The Witch Queen, which will definitely help get people caught up for the final shape later this year. My personal favorite of the 4 selections, Sifu, which is a very unique take on the beat 'em up with some Souls-like elements where every time you respawn you gain in a year, which makes you more vulnerable, but also gives you more experience. Especially, I talked about that before. I'll definitely be into trying this one again. I also go for 100% completion, all the other branching paths, and even on all the skills, especially like how the skill tree that you upgrade is an actual tree that grows in your Zen garden, and the actual branches on it depend on which skills you have on your character. Nice. I've also been trying my best to 100% complete the 2017 Battlefront 2 ahead of the Classic Collection coming next Thursday, a week from this Thursday even. I finally got past the point I was stuck on Star Wars Dark Forces as well. Now working on Mission 5. I still think they've done a really good job with the remaster version in terms of introducing it for new generation and also updating it for longtime fans. Outside of that port on the original PlayStation, and I don't think it had gotten really much exposure outside the original DOS version at all. So Yeah, it'll help take the sting out of the recent cancellation of Respawn's proposed Mandalorian first-person shooter. I wouldn't have gone that far. I would have just held off on the idea until after the third Jedi game is done and released. I mean, but that's just me. And like I said, I don't know about full on Crash, but we're definitely going to be in uncharted waters this year, especially after the absolute watershed year we had last year, where there was just hit after hit after hit coming. I mean, to say for certain. So I don't really buy into the whole argument and about there not being more single player titles from the Immortals Alien guy, especially given how a lot of my favorite games last year, in fact, my very favorite game of the year, Tears of the Kingdom, was a single player title. Hell, yeah. Closing out a couple snippets of news I normally would not bring up, but I thought would be worth addressing. And that Skull and Bones, the oft delayed, a so-called quadruple A title, has actually launched below 1 million players, even factoring in like the free trial, and even below Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which was the game that played a large part in inspiring his title to begin with. Even less than other titles. I mean, I can also kind of verify that, again, whereas Tekken 8 was sold out most places I looked, as was the new Mario vs. Donkey Kong, which were like a one-on-one fighting game and a remake of a 20-year Game Boy Advance game, respectively, really says something. And apparently, following in Nintendo's footsteps, Microsoft's next Xbox showcase is going to be focusing on their development partners. Theirs will be streaming on March 6th. I mean, I'll be occupied then with my next Bad Batch vlog and reshuffling all things around. I want to get my Pokemon Journeys vlog started. And even though I had to swap around talking about Horizons English dub once again, and hey, if Pokemon Company and Netflix can do it, so can I. I think there might be a surprise on Thursday for a topic. You'll just wait and see what it is, though. Anyway, that's all for now, and it's all again soon. Take care, everyone.